So once he got fired, he sent a demand letter to Google naming me and my friend, and we both have PhDs. So it was funny because in the letter he was doctor, 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 and me and my friend were miss, 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 And it's just that, like, it's just like a technique to diminish you. You know what I mean?
Welcome, Fedi Friends, to episode 42 of Fireside Fedi. I'm your host, Ozone. Fireside Fedi is a show about folks within the Fediverse. If you're seeing this, you are a part of the Fediverse. And strap in, this is a big one. I'm very nervous. The wonderful Elena Rossini actually recommended that I speak to today's guest. And honestly, I didn't know much about her until I looked in her background, and now I'm just super nervous and humbled and amazed. So with me today is Timneet Gehbru. And sorry.
It's fine.
I did know you're an active member of the Fediverse. You're well-liked, vocal critic of big tech, vocal critic of certain atrocities that are being committed, and you stand up for those that are marginalized groups. And as I said, I'm very nervous and humbled to be speaking with someone like Timneet. Timneet. Please don't hesitate to correct me.
That was good.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Was accurate, yeah.
Timnit is Ethiopian born, came to the US when she was 15. She attended Standford for electrical engineering and computer vision, then proceeded to work for the world's largest tech companies, Apple, Microsoft, Google. It was at Google that she published a historic paper on the dangers of stochastic
parrots.
Stochastic, thank you. Parrots. I literally had to look that word up earlier. Can language models be too big? This caused Google to accept a resignation that she never offered, which led to more than 7,000 people from within Google, academic and civil societies to sign a letter condemning her firing, to which she then founded DAIR, Distributed Artificial Intelligence Research Institute. So, Timneet, welcome to my tiny little humble show. I am, again, humbled, amazed, obviously lost for words on having you here. Before we get started, how would you like to be addressed?
Timneet is fine. That's my name. I was telling you earlier, like, I get annoyed when, you have an article or some other thing and there's a bunch of PhDs and they call all of them doctor and then I'm not. And then I'm like, well, if that's what we're doing, then I am Dr. Gebru to you. But usually, otherwise, I'm just Timneet. That's my name.
Well, yeah. And that is an amazing thing. Like that is that. So my name's Anthony, and whenever I go into a meeting, everyone's like, "Oh, do you go by Anthony or Tony?" It's like, it's Anthony. But at least ask. Like, if they knew you on a personal level and they called everyone else, like, "Well, this is my friend Timneet." Like, that's a bit different.
Oh, but it's
how do they get away with that?
It's a tactic to minimize you and your work and your accomplishments. Actually, a very good example of this was that when I was at Google before I got fired, there was this guy who got fired from Google. And it was a number of our friends had told us that he had sexually harassed them. And so me and my friend were speaking up about him, and it got back to him. So once he got fired, he sent a demand letter to Google naming me and my friend, and we both have PhDs. So it was funny because in the letter, he was doctor, 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 and me and my friend were miss, 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 and it's just that, like, it's just like a technique to diminish you. You know what I mean? But
that's such a petty thing. Like, you just sexually harass them. Okay,
I know.
Whatever.
I know,
dude. If that's what makes you feel better in life,
to start the show, isn't it? It's interesting.
Yes, this'll be the opener, I think, because that really grabs you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awful. But that's
Yeah, but
so
that was my
petty. Like
life
it's
at Google.
completely unnecessary.
Yeah, that was my life at Google. It was one thing after another like that. And then at the paper that you mentioned, that was sort of like a cherry on top kind of thing. I was they wanted me out for a while. I was there for 2 very short years, but the whole time I think the head of HR just was like waiting to strike. Cause like, oh my God, how are we gonna get rid of this person? So yeah.
Well, I want to circle back around to that. But before we get back around to that, how did you get to where you're at today? And as much, as little, as long, as short, whatever you are comfortable like talking about.
Hmm. Once upon a time, once upon a time, my parents, they're from Eritrea, which is a country to the north of Ethiopia. So at the time, Ethiopian Eritrea were Ethiopia is basically like an empire, and there's a bunch of people who are cobbled up in that empire. There's over 100 languages spoken in the country. I mean, it's just a nation of nations, is how I would describe it. So Eritrea was, a country. The borders were basically drawn by the Italians. We were colonized by the Italians. So when my grandfather lived there, it was under Italian colonization. So after the Italians, Ethiopia annexed Eritrea. So then there was like an independence movement. I mean, it's a whole thing. And then when my parents moved to the capital city of Ethiopia, and because it was very common for people to just move around at the time. So I was born there in Addis, it's the capital city, Addis Ababa of Ethiopia. My name Timnit means wish in Tigrinya, which is and then the story is that my parents wanted a boy because I have 2 sisters. And apparently I was an accident. So they're like, fine, if we're going to have her, at least make it a boy. And it was like a girl. And, it's like, oh my God, how bad can this be? But then my oldest sister wanted a girl.
So you have been causing trouble before you were even born. Good job. Yeah,
right?
good job.
I got into this world and I didn't know, So my sister called me Timnit, which means wish. And so in my native tongue, so that's Tigrinya. And so I only spoke Tigrinya at home until I went to school. So this is interesting because in Addis, if you just like grow up there, you'd speak Amharic. But with my parents, we weren't allowed to speak Amharic at home because they wanted to make sure that I also spoke
right.
Tigrinya.
Okay.
So I spoke Amharic when I went to school. I didn't speak English, until much later. Like there's a recording of me when I was like 5 years old, singing English songs with making up the word, just making up the words that sound like English, but they're not English, So then, so I grew up there, and then when I was 15, there was a war between Ethiopia and Eritrea. So it became. So anybody who is of Eritrean descent was getting deported from Ethiopia to Eritrea. And for, it doesn't matter if you live there 30 years, 40 years, if you've never lived there, if you were born in Ethiopia, like the kids, and it was very dangerous for young people, like 15, 16 was a very dangerous age to be deported to Eritrea because during the war, those kids were getting conscripted to war. On the air, and that's what happens right now in Eritrea too. Actually, it's a totalitarian regime, and you're not allowed. People between the ages of 5 to 55 are not allowed to leave the country, and any of the young people, the stats I think from 2016 were that Eritreans were second only to Syrians in the number of refugees arriving to Europe, and it's just a whole bunch of situations, right? So it's just like. All of these people you see dying in the Mediterranean because the Europeans are just killing people rather than having them on their shores. Many of them are Eritrean. We just it's yeah. So anyhow, so that so when I was 15, I had to leave very quickly, and my mother had a visa to go to the U.S. and that was very lucky for her because my sisters had come to the U.S. and they had studied, electrical engineering as well, because my dad was an electrical engineer. We all just like, well, we'll do that, So, yeah, and so my mom was very lucky to be able to go outside, but I couldn't get a visa, and so I got a visa to Ireland randomly. My sister happened to be there. She convinced them it was a temporary thing. She just really bothered them every day until they couldn't like ignore her.
Oh,
And so I went there, and then my mom was in the US applying for political asylum. And so when I was 16, I came to the US and we got political asylum. Basically, I got political asylum when
wow.
I came. And in the US, when I was in Ethiopia, um, I didn't really think about being black. I mean, I thought about, you think about things when people remind you of them. So I didn't really think
Yeah.
about being Eritrean in Ethiopia until that whole war, until we
Yep.
had to stop speaking Tigrinya in public so people don't know. Then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, shit, I'm Eritrean, I guess. I didn't think about this. But in this situation, I'm thinking that I'm Eritrean because it's a big deal that I am, because they would deport me, right? So in that same
Wow.
way, in terms of race, there is a lot of, race is a thing in Ethiopia, in the sense that there are people of different ethnicities. There are people who think they are closer to whiteness and they look down upon, other darker skinned people. Same, like my people are in that realm, right? We would like look down upon a number of other groups and stuff like that. But I heard about the U.S., like racism in the U.S. And I heard about the South and stuff. Like, I don't know, but I mean, it was just like abstract, sure. And then I got to Boston. And Boston is home of the abolitionists. That's all I know about Boston, is that like they were on the right side of the Civil War. You know what I mean? Like, this
Yeah.
is all I know about this place that I just walked into. And I mean, I can't explain to you like the shock, because the teachers would not let me take certain classes. They wouldn't let me take like honors classes, even. I didn't know what advanced placement was. I didn't know,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know these
You have a
things,
different
right? But they
yeah,
wouldn't let
yeah.
me take any of these classes. My chemistry teacher said that um, I asked him, like to move up a level, because I was like, oh, I've taken the stuff you're mentioning in Ireland. And he was like, first day of school, I've met so many people like you who come from other countries, and they think they can just take the hardest classes here and,
They can.
do well. And you would, if you took the exams that these people take, you would fail. And guess what? I've never taken chemistry since my last chemistry class was 10th grade. Like 11th grade is when I came to the US. Never took. I was like, I don't need chemistry. That's fine.
Yeah.
So anyways, so then and then my guidance counselor told me I wasn't going to get into college whatsoever. And so I was just like, what am I going to do if it was
Very
so
positive
those
attitude.
those 2 years were, extremely depressing. I was depressed, and also very confusing, because I was learning how racism works. I didn't know. So like,
A crash
when,
course.
yeah, I just didn't know how it works. Like, people sound like they're nice, that they care about your well-being. That's why they don't want you to take the class, or they think it's too hard for you, or, and so that happened. Then I went to Stanford. I got into Stanford. I was very happy. I didn't know. I just literally did not know
Just
what
that
Stanford.
little college, yeah, that you're never going to get
I didn't
into.
know what I had never heard of Stanford University. I applied to it because at the time, when you're outside of the U.S., the big ones are like Harvard, MIT.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear about Stanford, and
Stanford's. Yeah.
it's a huge. I know it's huge, especially
Yeah.
now with tech, right? But back then,
Yeah.
I didn't. I really didn't. And so I just, I go online. I like take a list of schools. I apply to schools, like whatever. I write my essays, and so then I go to Stanford, and I'll study electrical engineering, which I did, analog circuit design, and then I go to Stanford, and people are like, oh, you got him because of affirmative action. Now I learned about this. And, because I was just so traumatized by my high school experience, and I want to tell people about what happened and how terrible it was. You won't believe what happened to me, right? Like, that's my attitude. Then they're like,
Jesus
oh,
Christ.
you must be so lucky because you got in because of affirmative action. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what? So I was pissed. It was just like, so basically that's the kind of the first half. And then, then I wanted to get a job. I didn't have internships for my, freshman year. I couldn't get an internship. So I sold like Cutco knives. Have you ever sold,
Okay. Yeah.
Cutco?
I've
Yeah.
never sold it, but I've heard of them and I've seen, yeah.
It's kind of like a pyramid scheme, but I didn't know. I was like, I just saw an ad for $18 an hour. I'm like, oh man, I can't pass that up. So I did
Right.
that for a
Yeah.
bit. Then I got a babysitting job when I was trying to sell this woman knives. Like she was like, no, but I need a babysitter and you're in the area. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. So I did that kind of, I just did all sorts of jobs when I was in school because, summers I couldn't get internships until my junior year. I got an internship at Apple. And this was, again, luck because that they last minute were looking for an audio and audio engineering is a very niche thing, right? There are not that many people who do both. And I was like both interested in music and analog circuit design. And I had taken this project class where I built this electric piano key. And so I saw an internship very late. Like usually internships are announced like in September or something. This was very late, like in April. I saw an internship announced.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah,
like for the summer, for June, right?
Right,
and so
yeah.
I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do that summer. And then I saw an internship announced within a, week. Like that's it. I went and interviewed and they really liked that I was into music and I built the ski and stuff. And I got that internship and then I got my job. And I didn't know back then who Steve Jobs was. So
it's fine. You don't need to know him.
Yeah, but I'm so glad nobody asked me during my interview, or like just didn't mention to him or something. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So I went there and I worked there like full-time and part-time for about 6 years. I worked there for 2 years full-time. Yeah, wow. I worked there for 2 years full-time. And then I went back to school, while working at Apple part-time. So I went back to school to study electrical, just circuit design, get more into the circuits, basically deeper into the circuits, deeper into what's called device physics, which is more physicsy than, device physics is more about, so circuit design's like, okay, how do you create this system? Device physics is more like, what about the individual components? Like, how do you create better memory or better CPUs?
Oh, okay.
Better transistors for the CPUs,
Lower level.
Yeah, lower level. Yeah. So I started getting more into that. And then I just, I started doing a PhD and I felt super isolated. And like everyone, who wants respect, like I decided I'm going to do a startup. Like whatever you do, it doesn't matter. That gets you respect. Like it doesn't matter. It's like a dating app for squirrels. You know what I mean? That gets you respect. You're CEO of, squirrel.ai.
I started a nonprofit earlier this year called BT Free. It's Big Tech Free. And I'm like, my wife's like, you could call yourself anything. And I'm like, well, I'm going for CEO because that sounds really official. Yeah, and everyone CEO. On LinkedIn has CEO now. So
yeah, be CEO, who cares of what? Like just you walk into a room, you say CEO of your own company.
Yeah.
And, I don't even want to tell you what this company was called. Do you want to know?
Yes, please.
So I just want to say that I was not the person who came up with this name. I have to do a lot of disclaimers before I tell you. It was my co-founder, like I was on break and my co-founder had already registered us by this name and it was called Motion Think. It's like, I don't know. I don't understand, it's 2 words.
Yeah. 2 random words out of the dictionary. Motion Think. Like.
So I was CTO of Motion Think. And we didn't know what we were building yet, but we were a company and cited that for a bit. And actually, that's interesting because during that time, I was doing this random startup, but I started when I was at Stanford, I wasn't really embedded in the startup scene. Like it's hard to not pay attention to the startup scene when you're at Stanford because you can't escape it. Yeah, you can't escape
everywhere.
They're there, like they're teaching classes, like Peter Thiel's teaching a class, this other person's coming to give a guest talk. I don't know, like it's everywhere. Your friends are just always doing startups and talking about it. So
it's the lottery for a certain class of people, it seems like, right? Like, well,
Yeah.
maybe my dating app for squirrels will take off and someone will buy it for $10 million and then I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
It's
or exactly. It's like a gambling or I don't know what.
yeah.
But so the interesting thing is, when I was at Stanford, I when I was in school, I mean, I sort of I had to know about startups to the extent that someone just walking around at Stanford would, because you can't get away from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just you even if you're not actively interested in it, you just won't get away from it. But but when I was doing a startup, it was like, now people will explain to me like who the VCs were, like that's Ron Conway, that's this other guy, and like I learned who Peter Thiel. I started taking this class. So Peter Thiel has this book called 0 to 1, right? That he wrote, I think it was 2013 or something. So in 2012, I don't think I was trying. I'm writing a book. I'm like trying to reconstruct, when did I start hating Peter Thiel, and I'm like, I don't remember, like. So I know that 2012, I didn't hate him first, because I was like, all I knew was he was this well-known VC and
Yeah.
well-known guy in startup world that you should listen to. Like, he'll give you advice. That's what I knew, right? So I went to his class. So he started teaching a startup class at Stanford. This is what I'm telling you. So my conclusion is that Stanford is it is Silicon Valley, basically, right? There's no difference between the school and the companies and the billionaires and the big tech and whatever.
Well, isn't that a conflict of interest for Peter Thiel to teach that, being a VC that funds startups?
He still teaches, I think, at Stanford, but he taught a class called something about startup world or something about startups. So what?
But that's like getting the answers before the test.
I mean, but you know what he did? He brought his friends, like other famous
Of course he
I mean,
did.
I wonder how many billionaires were concentrated in that whole syllabus. But like every class was his friends, like Max Levchin, the PayPal mafia, these people who just like Elon Musk and stuff, right? Like they all got rich from PayPal, and then now we just can't get rid of them because they're so rich and powerful, and they've founded all these companies, and they like extend their influence because they invest in each other. So he did that. And I remember what happened one class. I think it was Max Levchin, but I'm pretty sure it was him. He was like saying stuff, and then he was giving advice to people, and he told them that one of his advices was to minimize diversity. He's like, minimize, literally like that, in a huge room, like lecture room, and I was like, what? And he said, because when you're funding a startup, you all have to be on the same page. And so if you minimize diversity, it means you're all doing the same thing. You're on the same page. So I walked right out of that class. I was like, I'm not gonna sit here and listen to that.
I mean,
so
I'm no billionaire. I'm not even a millionaire, but having moved into an area that was insanely diverse, it's amazing. I have experienced so many cultures just in this area within the last couple of years, and I had in my entire 40 years before that. And it's incredible. It's magical to see someone that looks at the same thing you do, and that means a completely separate thing to them. Or they have festivals and they are excited to show you about you coming to them, and it's wonderful. Yeah, that's.
But in the context of startups, that means like he was saying,
of course,
basically just hire white dudes is what he's saying, right? And so only and then it's just so basically so that was that. And at some point, well, unfortunately, very perhaps surprisingly, Motion Think did not work out quite well.
I mean, to be fair, it couldn't be the name, because we have companies like Google.
Right. Yeah, that's not the name, but I'm sure But so then I was like, so then I went back to my PhD, and I did. So at that time, I was starting to get interested, before Motion Thing, before whatever, I was starting to get interested in computer vision. So computer vision is when I got how I finished my PhD. When I was doing my PhD before, like when I was doing device physics, I started getting more interested in like signal processing, another buzzword, which is like more mathematical manipulation of like, let's say if you build an imaging device, right? A medical imaging device or something.
Okay.
You have to analyze the inputs. Like you have to interpret the inputs. You have to manipulate them in certain ways. So I started getting interested in that. I took classes there, and then that pushed me to computer vision, and I got super interested in computer vision. And then I finished my PhD in that field. But when I was doing my PhD, I noticed once again that there was kind of a confluence of things happening. First of all, there were no Black people at all anywhere I went. Like no, at the time Stanford had not graduated a Black person with a PhD in computer science, period. Like in their 50-something year departmental history, you know. And it was just like, you go to conferences that are international, you'd have thousands of people, like not a single Black person. But at the same time, we had I don't know if you remember the Google Photos incident, the Google gorillas, like where the Google Photos tagged a couple of darker skinned Black people as gorillas. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but holy shit.
Yeah, that happened in 2015. And then in 2016, there was a bombshell of an article by ProPublica, which showed that these software companies were purporting to sell software that can predict someone's likelihood of committing a crime again.
That I remember.
You know
that
one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
so that
everyone was calling it what's that movie with Tom Cruise?
Oh, Minority Report?
Minority Report. But it's going to automatically then flag people that have made a mistake in their life. So then
Not
they're
even.
going to.
So this was doing was, imagine, so
I think
first
I remember
of all,
that too, yeah.
like if you are arrested for a crime, that's not the same as committing a crime, right?
Right. Yep.
So the
yeah.
data you have is arrest data. So obviously, we know that, certain communities are much more over-policed than other communities. And so those people are going to be flagged. So this article showed that they flagged Black people, Black inmates as ones who are most likely to reoffend.
Right.
And then white inmates as ones, even the ones who reoffended, they always mostly flag them as like that, not that they're not going to reoffend.
Right.
So this one really shocked me because I didn't know that such a software existed and that people were using it. So like judges were using it to determine, for example, your bail and sentence.
Parole officers. Weren't parole officers using it as well? Yeah.
Yeah, still. Parole officers,
Jesus Christ.
judges, and how to determine bail time. So this kind of risk assessment has now spread, right? So now, if you apply for a visa, they'll enter you into some software that tells them your likelihood of whatever. They'll scrape your social media platforms. They'll scrape, all of these things and say, oh, this person is anti-American, or this person is more likely to be a terrorist or something, thought crimes, So that kind of stuff was happening, and I was very concerned about it. So I started a group called Black in AI. And so that became a group that was kind of, when I go to these conferences and stuff, at least I wanted to bring other people there or see other people there, give them the same networking and other opportunities.
This is when you were still at Stanford?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. My last year at Stanford is when I started it. At the same time, I collaborated with a collaborator who was a student at the time, and she was at MIT. Her name is Joy Bulamini, and she showed that for the first time that these face recognition systems, they have much higher error rates for especially darker skinned women than lighter skinned men, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we showed that. So that paper became like a pretty big. And so anyways, by the time I made my way to Google, I mean, it was clear who I was, I founded Black in AI. I'm being very
You were
loud.
already radicalized.
Yeah, I was being very loud about people being racist or something. And I was loud about the systems that are biased.
So with something like that,
Mm-hmm.
When someone says that, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, you just went there to cause trouble then." At least in my experience, you go somewhere you look up to and you're like, "We can make a difference here." Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that's more of what it was, or you tell me
Yeah.
that you were speaking out because you wanted to let them know this is a problem. We can make this
So
better.
yeah, before I was at Google, they knew exactly who I was, right? What I was
Right.
speaking up on, what I complained about, what I talked about. I never sort of like hid, and so they kind of recruited me. And at the time, there were these protests against Maven. If you remember, Maven is a government military contract that Google had. So this contract was because Google had signed a contract with the U.S. military to analyze drone footage and create computer vision tools to, um, yeah, to like identify certain targets and stuff like that. So I did not sign my Google offer until the day after they announced they were pulling out of Maven contract. So
Oh, nice.
I was like, I emailed Jeff Dean and I was like, I'm concerned about this. And I had a meeting with him. I complained, I mean, a whole bunch of stuff. So I saw the article that they were pulling out of the contract and I signed my offer. And I thought for me, I thought what I was thinking was out of the big companies, big tech companies, the fact that there's this employee activism,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that there is this kind of conflict for me was a good thing because that means that at least there was a base of people who really could organize. And,
Yeah.
of course, later on, all of the anti-Maven organizers kind of got pushed out along, they got pushed out before me and then I got pushed out. So they hadn't started the purging process, I would say. But I was
Right.
like, okay, the fact that I'm seeing, like at Microsoft, I had a good time at Microsoft Research, but there wasn't this kind of activism. Microsoft was like, I was like giving talks about,
Yeah.
predictive policing and how bad it is. And then I found out that Microsoft has a predictive policing
Yep.
like contract with someone. I'm like, what? Like, how is nobody, saying anything against this? So, but at Google, I
Yep.
saw these people, I saw this worker organizing, and that was really a big part of what drew me to the company. Because I was like, well, if people can actually do this, that's big, right? Like
Yeah.
they are actually organizing inside the company. So then I set foot at Google, and then like, 1 month later is, I don't know if you know the Google walkout. It was like 20,000 people walking out because Andy Rubin, the founder of Android, was given $90 million to exit the company after he was accused of sexual harassment and sexual misconduct.
I think that got like merged into the Me Too movement.
Yeah,
news,
it
didn't
was basically the height of the Me Too movement. And so
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that plus Maven plus all this, that was like 20,000 people were walking out. Meredith and Claire's some of these organizers there. So that happened, and it was just, and I went into Google and I was just shocked by like just so the sexist culture, the racist, I mean, especially research. And I would just I during the Google walkout, I wrote an email about all of the things I saw in a in a list called Brain, Women, and Allies. So Google Brain is like the machine learning
Okay.
side, used to be the machine learning side of the research arm.
Sure.
And that's also the email list that I wrote to my last email to that apparently got me fired. But I said, I am so shocked by all the stuff I'm seeing. I'm like, I did the under leveling of the women. I was just like, this is shocking to me. It's just so much, and it's so toxic. Like, and that was a couple of months in. And then my co-lead Meg was gonna quit. Literally, I started in September. I think October was like the Google walkout. November, Meg was gonna quit, and I was trying to I'm like, I came here to lead this team with you. Like, I'm not gonna, lead.
Yeah.
I'm out if you're out. So I was trying to make a stop, put her in a better space, so that she didn't quit. It was interesting because both me and Meg were very, we had pretty high public profiles at the time as researchers, among like people in the space, but inside Google, we didn't, because they only cared about levels. There's just extremely hierarchical. And so if you're like not a VP or not a director or something, that's it. Like what nothing you say matters, you know? But
Yeah.
then they won't make you a VP or a director. You
I,
know, yeah.
yeah, because no, I'm literally, yep.
You're
I, you,
nodding
you,
along.
you, you tell a manager like that's not how this works, and then they say it again later. It's like that's not how this works, and then
Yeah,
you
but
say
just
it so
because
many
they're
times, but
manager.
because they're the manager, it's like, oh, okay, well, you have to get that. Then it's like, sure, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's astonishing. Like they hire you because you're an expert, then they don't bother to listen to you, right?
well, I guess they hired us to say that we were that expertise like ours existed at the company, but not to listen to us. So we started
Right.
having like certain strategies. So one of our strategies was that we would write papers that are externally influential. And if we wrote those papers that were externally influential, then it would be more embarrassing for Google to not adopt the methodology that we wrote about that became externally,
Okay.
influential.
Yeah.
So we'd be like, okay,
Why
let's
is
like,
Google not
yeah,
doing what their
yeah,
lead
the
researchers are writing
researchers
about?
and
Yeah.
other people are doing it. We're listening. Like, here's this paper that everybody. So
Yeah.
one example is this paper called Model Cards. So Meg, my co-lead at the time, who was also fired, she had proposed this thing called model cards, which is that every and this is something I did as an electrical engineer all the time, and I was shocked to see that in the field of AI there was no such thing. That before you put out a model or a system like whatever into the world, like a software
Sure.
system or whatever it is, machine learning system, you have to do extensive testing and characterization of the system.
You
Obviously,
would
right?
you would think.
You would think, right? And then you should document it, and you should let us know what tests you did, and you should,
No.
you think
No.
this is basic.
No, I think we should hurry up, throw it all together, and throw it out on the internet and just say that it's the next
Move
best
fast and
thing.
break things. Yeah.
Right? Like, no, that's how the software industry is. And like it's that the whole thing. And it does not surprise me to hear that a company like Google is not taking actual active steps. We're gonna get sued.
Well, I've already been there, so I mean,
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
it's
I'm
like at
glad to
this
be
point.
joining you.
But so the interesting thing about model cards is that the proposal itself didn't receive any backlash because it's like a very engineering centric proposal. Like, it doesn't seem political or anything. Like, why wouldn't you want more testing and documentation?
Right?
Like, it's just like common sense, right? So an engineer's like, yeah, I think we should have that, and everybody's like, I think we should have that. But when it comes to implementation, what you're actually saying to them is that if you spend $1 to do this thing, now you have to spend 20, right? Because, and then you have to have a longer time scale for each product. Now this becomes an extremely unappealing proposal from us, because we're saying literally when your competitors are spending $1 and putting stuff out in a month, you should spend $20 and put stuff out in a year. And maybe you shouldn't even put stuff out if you find that it's
Yeah.
going to be harmful. Like, nobody's going to listen to us unless they're forced to do it.
Right.
So
Yes. Yeah. Because we got to make that buck right now because it won't be there
exactly,
tomorrow.
stock
We'll lose
market
out.
analysts, whatever.
Yep.
So so our that was our strategy. So
Stressed.
we would put out model cards and become influential, and then they would be like, oh, maybe we should think about stuff like this. So we had to have a whole bunch of different like strategies of
So,
existence at that company.
well, but it's interesting because those of us in IT that have followed the insane boom that these companies have caused over the last
Yeah,
20 to 30 years to hurry up and get to the next thing. Like
yeah,
I'm a cynic, and I've told people like of course they're not protecting stuff because they just want to get it out there as quick as possible to make as much money as possible now, and then
yeah.
when they face a crisis then they'll address it. But still, even if
Not
they're
right now.
fined 1%, they still just made 99%.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's so many like people that I've talked to, and it's like, no, they have to have oversight and do things right.
Absolutely
And
not.
it's
Because we found that these oversight
yes.
mechanisms, so when I was at Google, they created some sort of oversight, um, AI oversight, whatever board or something, and they wouldn't let me or Meg near it. It was just like, it was all for show, right? And so
Yeah.
anyway, so finally, what happened at the end was that so until then we just had battle after battle after battle, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
so finally we wrote this paper called on the one on the dangers of stochastic parrots. Can language models be a bit too big? At the time, people were just super excited by OpenAI's models that they were releasing. Just all they could do was just gush about it. And I just hated this company so much. Like from its inception, 2015, I wrote an
Mm-hmm.
open letter being like, why is everybody talking about this company as like a benevolent nonprofit? This is absolutely ridiculous. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I had so much hate reserved for this company. And so,
No, I mean, it's a perfect example of power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? And no one is above that corruption,
no,
even if you
but they were
start out.
corrupt from the very beginning, is what I'm trying to say. It's
Oh,
not
oh,
like,
they.
yeah, that's why I hated the company and how people talked about them. Because in
Mm-hmm.
2015, they were
Oh, well,
announced
yeah.
as a nonprofit, and all the journalists are like, oh, these people, Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, are co-founding a company to safeguard humanity from the bad things that AI
I
can do.
remember
You
it.
gotta be kidding me.
I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
But but they were never like it
No.
was impossible for I knew these people, right? Like I saw these people and like they were not benevolent, or they were not going to do anything benevolent. But like the news headline after headline was like, oh, this nonprofit and it's just like it drove me crazy, right? Like it drove me nuts. And so then by 2020 is like hype around OpenAI was just going up, and researchers were very excited by these GPT models that OpenAI was having. And so at the time, there was a jump, like GPT-3 came out, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
bigger model than the
Yeah.
GPT-2. And all this excitement about what it can do. And I was just, and then, so on the one hand, it's excitement. On the other hand, you have a bunch of people being like, well, can GPT be an art? Can it think? Is it artist? Can it be artist? Can it be ethical? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like this is like can a bridge be ethical? Like what are we discussing here? And I was like, well, we need to steer the conversation not in this direction of like a pontification about like whatever.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, you're giving, imagine a bridge collapses and you're asking, can a bridge be ethical? No, you should be asking who gave them those codes, who was involved in the city, why
Right.
did we not
Yeah.
have, why are we building this thing in the first, what materials did they use, who is the company that built it,
Right.
why,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
those are
Who
questions
is
you would ask.
responsible? Yes. Yeah.
And
Who is
why
actually
did we not have
the
what
bridge?
they use?
The bridge can't hold itself up. So someone built the bridge, and those
Yeah.
folks are responsible. Yeah.
But you know what this conversation about AI does is it makes the thing that is built seem like its own agent. And so now you're obfuscating, you're like kind of not, you're not holding them responsible. Whoever built it,
Holy
whoever
shit.
and deployed it and stuff. And
This is why. So, but yeah, you're anthropomorphizing the
Yeah.
AI, and people are making these connections as if it was a real person. So when it messes up, it's not an issue. It's not a problem for the company. It's a hallucination.
Yeah, exactly. And
Holy
that's a
shit.
big word. So, and also like, it's not a conversation about what are the harms. What about the environmental catastrophe? Like, let's like talk about tangible things. So at the time, the only person who was really speaking up in whose voice I wanted to be heard in this arena was Emily Bender. So Emily Bender is a professor at University of Washington. She's a faculty affiliate at DAIR too now, and her and Alex, my director of research, they host a podcast called the Mystery AI Hype Theater 3000. It's a great podcast for, it's like it's become like a support group. I feel I read that someone writing that it's become a support group for people just who are just tired of what's happening. And they also wrote this book called The AI Con. That's also great. Like I love their book
I saw the book. I haven't read it, but
yeah. So that they have. So Emily was just at the time like talking about like tangible things, like what about the data? What data are they using? Why are they not documenting the data? And things like this. So I wrote to her and I said, listen, have you written a paper that I can cite because I just want to like, I want to cite whatever you wrote to send stuff to people. People keep on asking me. And she was like, no, I haven't written a paper, but do you want to write one together? I'm like, well, I haven't thought about that. And so the next day she just sends me an outline. I'm like, what? And, title, parrot emoji and everything, and just the same title and stuff. And I cobbled, like, I put some other members of my team together. So we submitted the paper. You have to have internal approval processes at Google. I didn't think they would love the paper, but I didn't think they would go to such lengths to just like, make me not
disavow it.
So it was approved and everything. It was being reviewed by this conference. And one day my manager's manager puts a meeting on my calendar and tells me like I have to, when I show up, that I have to like retract this paper, or and then I was like, who says? Why? Oh, somebody from the ether, like the product people.
Yeah, the upper management that exists that you've never seen before.
So they had like somebody had written a privileged and confidential paper, like letter that's anonymous, and sent it to HR telling me to retract the paper. It was a one-page thing. I'm like, this is so ridiculous. It's like I'm some toxic material that you can't. They were like too scared to talk to me, kind of like some VP, right?
Yeah.
And so I talked about it with my team, and first of all, we wanted the paper to be out. We didn't trust that, and if they wanted to talk to me about the issues, that's one thing, right? But I felt like if we delayed the publication, all they'd do is just try to kill it. And
censorship inside of big companies happens all the time, right?
Yeah. And so I said, okay, well, we have other non-Google people involved, so I'm willing to take my name off the paper, but I can't tell them to like not publish the paper. But you can have it not be a Google paper. However, even that, I will only agree to that with certain conditions. So first of all, what kind of research can we do at this company? And also, what kind of process can we expect to follow? Like, are you gonna just randomly tell us like that whenever you don't like a paper that we can't publish it? Because that's called the marketing department. That's not called the research. Like, I'm supposed to be, I'm trading on my name as a researcher. So if that's what
they didn't actually want.
Exactly. So I'm trading my name as a researcher, a scientific researcher. I'm at this company, and I'm not willing to just like I'm not in the marketing department. If I entered the marketing department, then that's I follow your orders about what I can and cannot say to the world about this product. But if I'm a researcher, then if I'm just listening to that, I'm misleading people, and that's my name on the. So I said we have to at least have a conversation about what research we're allowed to have and all of this stuff.
And I'm gonna once we get to the end of this, because this is all amazing. We have to talk about how you're so fearless, but that kind of logic, it's true, because on the other hand, if you are not honest and open with people about the research you found, and you start pitching these ideas, once the blowback comes, it's over anyway, right? Like, Timnit is the one that's going to get the issue, and Google's going to be like, oh, she was a rogue researcher. We don't buy, and you're going to get fired anyway.
Yeah. And it's like, basically it was very clear what they were doing. If you're a researcher and even if you're not actively lying, right? And you decide, there's 80% of things that you think are really dangerous, and you're not allowed to say that out loud.
Yeah.
But there's 20% that they're fine with you saying, and you only publish on that 20%. That's basically telling people that this other 80% doesn't exist according to you. So I just
legal
wasn't
negligence.
willing to do that. Yeah, I was not willing to do that. And so,
Jesus.
But I wasn't willing to just be like, okay, I'm done, because I have a team to protect also. But we were hiring all these people to do critical research. And so I wanted to know, what process should we follow? Because I followed the process that I was told about, and now I'm here. So we gotta have this conversation. They didn't want to have this conversation, and then they said, oh, and then I wrote an email to bring women and allies and stuff, and so then my direct report is just talking to me, and then she's like, oh my god, like, what did you resign? What happened? What she's just freaking out. I'm like, what happened? So my manager's manager, without telling him, she sent an email to my direct report saying that I have resigned. and my email has been cut off. My corp has been cut off. My manager didn't know.
Wow. They didn't even tell you.
They didn't tell me or my manager. And so,
Jesus
and he's the
Christ.
director. So if you look at the levels or whatever. And so when I call him, he was just like, "Oh, I'm having dinner." I'm like, "Do you know that I resigned apparently? And I can't even log into my access." And so I immediately went to Twitter. I was like, "I've been fired," and just like, I didn't even think it blew up. Like, I just, what I wanted to do is I knew that I had to set the narrative, because what they did, I saw what they did to the other people they fired.
Mm-hmm.
They would fire them, and then they would make up some stories about them.
Yep.
They would make them. So a year before me, they fired these people organizing against Google's contract with ICE when the child separation policy was happening at the border.
I remember that one.
And so, but then when they were fired, they sent an email to the whole of Google, all of Google. Like, this VP sent an email talking about them, like making them sound like stalkers, stalking people's calendars.
Yeah, they control the narrative. They change the story. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I just wanted to be like, I gotta get my story out there. And it was, so crazy, because they just were not prepared. So all of these journalists started flooding them, and these people just had no idea, right? Like, because, I'm so insignificant inside the company, they couldn't imagine that anybody would care about me being fired. And secondly, they thought I would be
Timnit from Ethiopia.
Yeah,
She's not going to cause any problems.
And also, like, I think the funny thing to me is that they thought I would just kind of be like, "Oh, I guess I resigned," And I'm like, "But you, the reason you don't like me inside your company is because I didn't do that. So why would you think that I would do that outside of your company?"
Well, and resignations have to be submitted in writing.
It was clear that I didn't resign, but they just thought I would just not fight that, right? And so, anyways, that became a big thing. Like, people are writing letters and petitions, and news after news story. The Congress wrote a letter to Google about, like, asking about the dangers of large language models. The funny thing is this.
So we're recording, so I can edit anything back together, but
That's fine.
All right. So please go on, because this is.
Yes, try sound effect. I learned about what that meant for the first time when I got fired, because they made the paper super famous. It was funny because people are like, we didn't want the paper. The paper was under review by reviewers at an academic conference, so we didn't want to put out a version that wasn't reviewed.
So they could kill it, right?
Yeah, not that. Well, I was fired already, so they can't kill it.
Well, but their point is they wanted, their justification was, you incorrectly released a research paper that was never supposed to go through that.
But once I was fired, they couldn't stop me from
yes, right,
having the paper, because the paper is independent of Google. It's an academic conference. It's just, they just didn't want me to be at Google and have that paper, but they can't stop me from doing that outside of it. The thing is that we wanted to make sure that we wanted to incorporate reviewers before we wanted, edit the paper to incorporate the feedback from the reviewers before putting it out there publicly. But the thing is that people just wanted to read this paper. So, like, people are like, we got our the paper was leaked internally, and there was just like news articles are like, we read the paper, and it's like, it's so funny. And so I'm like, it's not like, it's not like this hidden secret thing. Literally, I'll give you the paper. It's just that I don't want, we don't want to release something that has an incorporated reviewer feedback. Like, academically, we don't want to do that anyways. So they just made this paper super famous. And like, everybody, much more famous than it would have been if they didn't make a fuss about it. So that's what happened.
But it's amazing because, again, to you, this paper was no big deal. And then the next thing you know, you are the center of the tech world to find whatever it is that threatened Google so much that, right? Like, that's how they make it. They make it to be as if there really is some machination going on that is stifling, and you're just like, no, this other stuff is bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because, you know, we knew, like, we wrote kind of like a list of people that we think we're gonna like the paper, dislike the paper, like, you know,
Yeah.
and we sent this paper for feedback to all these people. We even sent it to people at OpenAI, like, who gave us feedback, you know, that we didn't think we're gonna like the paper because this was about their product, and there was the only product they had. It was their bread and butter. Like, if that product fails, OpenAI had
They're
nothing,
done,
you know.
right?
So, and then, you know, so it was just like, okay, yeah, we got this feedback. We're incorporating all this feedback, you know, and like, that's it. This is a paper. That's great. Like, hopefully it'll be useful to people, and that's it. We'll move on, you know. And now they just
Holy
needed this
shit.
moment in history. Like, you know, that propelled this thing. So anyway, so Google, you know, for a few months, my full-time job was just fighting Google because I was out and my team was organizing. They were organizing, like, they were doing data analysis. Like, my direct reports would say, when Google accused me, like, Jeff Dean, who recruited me to Google, wrote a public, because he got all this backlash, wrote a public email that he made public, saying that I had resigned and that they were sad that I had resigned.
Yeah.
My paper didn't meet their quality bar, and this and that, and that I submitted it to the approval process too late. And then my team took all of the Dylan took all of the papers that were submitted to the approval portal and plotted when they were submitted, like what percentage of them were submitted at which date, to show that 90% of them were submitted like within a day of submission. So if I was going to be accused of submitting a paper too late, then, like, you should accuse all these other papers, like people who also sent, you know. So they were just countering everything they were saying. And they were saying that they wanted the VP who fired me, Megan, to be out of their reporting line. Like, it was a lot of, just like
excuses.
a lot of stuff. Yeah. And
Just
and then they
excuses.
started getting targeted because they had all these like interrogators, like, interrogating them. And then they disconnected Meg, my co-lead. They basically suspended her off of the corp account. They didn't fire her yet, but they suspended her, saying that she's been placed under investigation. And then 3 months. So basically in March, they fired me. In December, in March, they fired her. And you know, so basically by then, she was fired. I was fired. I was just trying to make sure that the story was alive and that Google wasn't able to destroy our reputations. And the only thing, and then the people were asking me what I was going to do next. Like, I didn't have time to really think about that.
Yeah.
But the only thing that excited me was basically creating something like DAIR, right? A research institute that's distributed, that has people from around the world, because I didn't want people to have to be in Silicon Valley to contribute to tech.
Wait, you started a startup and it wasn't as minimally diverse as possible?
Yeah, it was like, I wanted to be like the complete opposite idea of OpenAI, for example, right? Like, I hated that company ever since it was announced, the whole idea of it. And, you know, I wanted to have like an organization where people can do research on both the harms of AI systems, but also like imagine, you know, what are the technological futures we want, instead of just, you know, harms. I wanted these people to be not just like you know, engineers or whatever, but I wanted them to be like organizers and activists too, who know firsthand like what is happening to people, and, you know, what we should do about it, right? Like the impacts of this tech. So then
but I love this too, because you're a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't, again, they always make it seem like you're some radical that found your way into Google that was going to destroy it from the inside.
Me. They're the ones who recruited me.
And
they
and you're
knew
just
who
like,
I
no,
was.
I just want to do some research. Tell me what the hell we're supposed to do.
Right. And then I didn't even, when they told me to take my name off, I wasn't just like, I'm done. I was like, well, okay, well, what can my team do? My team can
Yeah.
operate in this kind of uncertainty. You have to tell us what the procedures are, what the rules
What
are,
do you want
what we
out
can
of
and
us?
cannot do. Like, we need to know this in advance. You not just randomly tell me to,
Wow. Yep. I've
cut
been
off,
there.
not, publish a paper and publish a paper, and so
Jesus.
yeah, so I started DAIR, and two of my former teammates, like people who reported to me, came to DAIR. Um, one of them reported, one of them was director of research, Alex Hanna. She was a sociologist doing research in our team. Now she's director of research at DAIR. Another one is Dylan, who was engineering lead, is engineering lead at DAIR. And so that's kind of been going on for 4 years now.
Wow. How can I ask, how is DARE funded?
DAIR is funded through a bunch of grants. Basically, we apply for grants from a number of foundations,
Okay.
private, whatever, like any kind of. Well, I mean, obviously, like we have to draw lines where we, it's not like any money.
Ethical issues, right? Yeah. If
Yeah,
someone, yeah.
yeah, we're not like but like,
If someone's committing a genocide and is like, "Hey, help us," no,
yeah, well, yeah, maybe not, but it's
right?
hard though, because what worries me, I mean, I think we're good so far, but what worries me about that business model is because it is a business model, and your business model is
Yep.
getting grants. Foundations can change strategy, people can change, and so I've always
Yeah.
thought about like how to diversify our revenue streams, like whether it's a consulting arm or something else. I've always thought about it, and so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's how we're funded so far.
Is there a way that what is the best way that like someone, again, because the show is more Fediverse powered, I do have
Yeah.
a presence now on X and Blue Sky, thanks to Andy Piper, just to get the word out and to be an advocate for the Fediverse. But outside of that kind of activity, is there any way for the general public to kind of help your cause? Because a lot of us, especially in the Fediverse, are very technical related, and we know that the bullshit that these companies are shoving down our throats is bullshit. Whereas the people in power and the people every day are like, oh, well, if I can't trust Elon Musk with this, who can I trust?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think that just kind of reading, engaging with our work is really helpful. You know, listen to our podcast, sign up for our newsletter. We have we have just a lot of content right now that I think we might want to
You're
organize more. But we have workshops, creative workshops that we hold for people who
you're
just
on
want to have a space.
PeerTube.
We're on PeerTube, we're on Mastodon, we have like all these creative workshops that we hold for people who want a space to like think of better things in terms of tech.
Yeah. A better world.
And so yeah, and I just feel, just learn more about like the hype versus reality, that what is the hype, what are we getting sold, and why are we getting sold?
Yeah.
How did things come to be the way they are? And the fact, learn about that, and then I think that helps show people that things don't have to be the way they are right now.
Yeah. It's as easy as that, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's all a smokescreen. It's all that's so I was a sysadmin at a large bank, and I told my wife after I had just gotten that job, I went in, I'm like, you won't believe how much of a shit show this place is. And she's like, well, we have our money there. Should we change it? And I'm like, no, because if this is a huge bank, if it's a shit show here, it's a shit show everywhere. And it's just like everyone is just scrambling to catch up with someone else to hurry up and do it better, faster, that they don't bother to do it right. It's
Yeah.
so I know you're pressed on time, and this has been absolutely lovely for me. But we have one more part. So now for the real reason I asked Timnit here.
Which is?
To give you the opportunity to win a prize of a lifetime. I know your background is in computer vision, so our prize today is superhuman vision specs.
Okay.
So, I thought about trying to find a way to get a public apology from Sundar Pichai, but you already got that. So good job.
I got a non-apology. It's like I
got
got
it right.
how
Yeah.
you feel. I'm sorry that's how you feel, kind of,
Get
apology.
well soon.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers. I had nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Are you ready for the quiz, Timneet?
Okay, what's the quiz?
All right. So I'm just gonna ask you some questions, and there's no right or wrong answer.
There was gonna be a test.
Yeah, there's a quiz. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Favorite movie and why is it Spaceballs?
Favorite? Oh my God, this is so hard. I actually don't know what my favorite movie is. It's like
you could just say it's Spaceballs. I'm okay with that.
It's not Spaceballs. No. I don't even think I don't even think I've seen Spaceballs, unfortunately.
I love it. It's stupid. It's just a comedy. It's a Mel Brooks comedy. I love it.
Have I seen it? Maybe I've seen it, but I don't. Oh man, I don't know if I can name a favorite movie right now because I haven't watched movies in such a long time. I'm like watching a lot of TV series and stuff, and I haven't watched movies in a long time, so I have to think about this more. I do. You know what I'll say? I don't think this is my favorite movie, but The Sound of Music, the musical.
Okay, it's a classic.
I really like it because the music. I just feel like the music's such a classic. All the songs and stuff, and I never get tired of like watching it over and over again. 3 hours of it. So,
I can't do that one. My dad watched that nonstop when I was a kid. I'm just like I can't.
Oh, no.
Nope.
My mom doesn't want to watch it. Anytime over the holidays, like they show it on TV, I'm like, let's watch it again. I'm like, no, we're done. No, So yeah, I'm in the opposite. Yeah.
So the next question is cryptocurrency, NFT, or metaverse?
Why are you doing this to me? Like, is there a none of the above?
That's fine. Yeah, that's an answer. Sure.
Okay, none of the above. Like, none.
Is there a reason, or I mean, there is a reason. We all know the reason.
Just like all of them are terrible to me. It's like my worst nightmare. So no NFT, no metaverse, no nothing. Like just life.
And so these next ones, if I mispronounce them, please help me.
Okay.
Furfur, Gomen, or Awazi?
Oh, Furfur. Oh, Furfur, Gomen, or Awazi. That's how you're saying. Furfur, Gomen, or Awazi.
Furfur, Gomen.
Oh, I like all of these things. Awazi is like Awazi you have to eat with. It's a spice that you have to eat with. So I like Awazi on everything. So I have to.
Okay.
You can't make me choose here because Furfur is great because
wait a second.
Is like.
This quiz is going horribly. We couldn't answer the favorite movie. We did answer the second one. Now I can't. Okay.
I answered the first one.
I guess you did. Kind of.
The second one, I said there's a none of the above option. Like, I'm assuming. So Furfur is like, I love Furfur, actually. Furfur might be my favorite. But I can't, but Awazi has to be put in Furfur,
Okay. See, I did not know that.
But like, or Awazi is like a spice. Like think of like ketchup or something, right? So
okay.
Furfur is great. The reason being that I always feel like it's like if you have like ingredients that are old and then you make Furfur, like each of them individually.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But then you make them into Furfur and like it tastes really good. So it's like I love that. About it. It's like making something really great out of not
like I have a
like
random
French toast or something.
I have a random head of lettuce, 2 carrots, half a drum of deer meat, and you just throw it all together and you come out with a stew or something. That's like what it is?
Yeah, basically, and the stew tastes really good, and like each individual ingredient might. Yeah, so I love that about it. So I like it a lot. Yeah.
All right, there we go. Next question is, what does an alternate universe Timneet do?
What is like the opposite Timneet, or like just
I mean, in theory there are infinite universes.
Yeah. Well, one opposite could be like someone who's just in these big tech companies, just like not, just doing, I don't know, circuit design or something. I mean, I can imagine if I never went into computer vision, what would I be doing? Just hardware mostly. And like, I just no, not public whatsoever. I mean, this is what I think like when you go into circuit design and you're not like thinking, oh, my PhD thesis might be on Wikipedia one day, or I just like you're like, or oh, I might need to be careful because I might have stalkers because like I've become public or something. You know what I mean? Like if you're interested in theater or something, maybe like
right.
you
Politician.
have those things.
It makes sense.
Politicians or like. I don't know, like you're a singer, you want to be a pop star, maybe you think about those things, right? But like if all you wanted to do is sit in a corner and like tinker with like your circuits or like read some papers and do some math or something, this is not what crosses your mind. So I would say an alternate universe me is like someone nobody knows of, like
it's literally the same one. She's just living a humble life.
Yeah, I'm just in my corner trying to do work, that's it. And I never got fired by anyone. I was never, on social media. Like I never said anything. I don't know.
Yeah, most people don't want that spotlight. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be an alternate.
Okay. All right. Wow. That's okay. Well, I reached out to an alternate universe Timnit. I have an alternate universe phone here. Don't ask. My kids made it.
Look at this.
Yeah. And so
100 out of 100. What's my score?
Well, we're not done with it yet, but the alternate universe Timnit that I reach out to, you started DAIR, the Distributed AI Research Institute. She started TAIR, which stands for Timneet's AI Rebellion. She created a worm that can access AI in any of the big tech companies. So whenever they ask it a question, it says "kiss my ass."
That's so funny.
So.
TAIR. I always wonder, like, when this AI bubble bursts.
Has to be soon, right? It has to be.
I hope so. But the problem now is like DAIR stands for Distributed AI Research Institute. So I hope you can help me brainstorm, like, what would AI stand for without like artificial intelligence?
I think that's a great question for the audience. Leave comments. Like it's all connected. So I want to hear it. That's good.
What would we be?
Yep. That'd be awesome. You crowdsource your name.
Crowdsource our name.
That's awesome. All right. So the next question, there's only 2 more questions. The next question is green, yellow, or red?
Those are the colors of the Ethiopian flag.
I do know that because I looked it up. Yeah.
Research. You're making me choose. Oh, red is a little, I think green.
I love green.
Actually, green and yellow, I think, are a good combination. Green and yellow makes me think of like, it depends on the kind of, like lime green is a little too much, like too, too like
a forest green. I like a forest green.
Yeah, forest green is great because it just puts you in this earthy sort of feel. So I like that. I'll say green.
Okay. All right. That's actually, we were going to paint this room a dark green, but it was way too dark in here. So.
Oh yeah. You right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So then as usual, our last question will be sent to Timneet telepathically.
Oh, okay.
I'll send you the question, take a moment to think about it, and then let me know when you're ready. They're very complicated questions. Okay. So, all right, you ready? Here it comes.
Okay, let me concentrate for a second. Okay.
Okay, so there's your question. Take your time.
Well, this is a hard one.
That's why I sent it telepathically, because that's the fastest way to convey the questions.
Well, should I just answer, or do you?
Sure. Go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, I think that chai lattes are good, but they could be a little too sweet. So for me,
interesting.
I prefer coffee and milk. Yeah, and
oat
milk is fine, but I think I drink milk. I like the creaminess of it.
Okay, there we go. That's the answer to the telepathic question that we totally sent. All right. Well, congratulations. You got every answer, either correct or incorrect. Good job.
Oh, come on.
You got them correct or incorrect. What?
Come on.
You did a great job.
I dispute this analysis.
It can't be either correct or incorrect.
No, I want it correct. I want 100. I want 100
Okay.
of 100
I mean,
A plus.
I believe you got that all through school, didn't you?
No, not at all. No.
Well, we can't stop now then.
Yeah, exactly. I guess like let me get my non-A plus streak.
I was gonna send you your superhuman vision specs, but when I got them in the mail, I found out that they were just the fake cheapy 15-cent like buy your X-ray specs thing, and they were just anaglyphic glasses. So sorry about that. It was totally real. All of that was,
yeah,
you know,
I know. Just like
very
question. Yeah, I get it. It was very real. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And of course my alternate universe phone, right? Like,
yeah, I see it. It looks like an alternate universe phone.
Hey, if big tech companies can say that AI is going to steal everyone's job in the next 6 months, like I can make shit up too.
I know, right? That's a good lesson here. Don't worry about what you say.
Right?
And its impact.
But Timnit, thank you so much for joining me. This has been absolutely amazing and humbling and wonderful. And I appreciate talking to you so much. Please keep up all the amazing work that you're doing. I know you didn't ask to be thrown into that situation, but you're there now. And I'm humbled by your fearlessness and just moving forward. You didn't give in to any of it. And you're absolutely incredible. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate you doing this Fediverse fireside chat with a whole bunch of people on top of your day job. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
and thank you for having me as a guest. Yeah,
thank you. And thank you for rescheduling. And
no problem.
To everyone out there on the Fediverse, thank all of you so much. This, I don't care what a billionaire asshole thinks. Diversity matters. You talking to each other, not past each other, not just blasting a message out there, but having real conversations. That's what this is about. And thank you so much for being a part of that. That's it. That's all I have for today. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good one. Bye for now.
Thank you.